So I got a text from a friend yesterday asking if I can give him some tips on how to become a vegan, especially without blowing out the budget. So I was actually just going to reply to him just on a text then I thought, oh, I might make him a quick video. But then I thought, hey, why not make a video and actually share it with the channel so other people can benefit as well. What I wanted to cover on this is basically what I eat on a day-to-day basis, or at least cover the 3 main meals, as well as some snacks, and also the mindset that you need to have sort of going into this. I'll cover some of the literature as well on resources that you can look at. Maybe I'll start off with the terminology as well, the difference between a vegan and going down a plant-based diet. So let me sort of go back and actually try and tell you, especially if you're a man and you wanted to go down this path, you really need to have this dialed in quite tight. What I mean by this is, as soon as you tell your friends or colleagues or family that you've adopted a plant-based diet, you're going to get a lot of backlash, because they're going to go, hey, you're not a real man if you don't eat meat, you're going to deteriorate, there's a whole bunch of, you're going to get man boobs, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And that's fine. People are ill-informed, or they want to try and do what's best for you because they're close to you, or they're just being mean and they're just trying to make fun, right? Either way, you need to have your conviction on why you're doing it. And as far as I see it, there's only 3 reasons. You're either doing it for the animal welfare, you're doing it for health, or environmental factors. So environmental factors, I can quantify it, but for you as an individual, it's probably easier sticking with the first 2. So from a animal activist perspective, I would sort of give you a backstory on how I went down this path, right? So I grew up in a very Buddhist household, and one of the precepts that we practiced growing up is, thou shalt not kill or harm any life forms at all. That was the first one, Satu Mama no Marami, which is basically, you don't kill any animals at all. But yet, at the dinner table, we had chicken, lamb, goat, pork. Beef was less common because beef was considered a holy animal, which, looking back at it, makes no sense at all. Why eliminate beef and eat all the others? But this, growing up, was a massive question for me. And when I asked the adults, the response that I got from the adults as well as the monks was that as long as you're not killing the animal, as long as you're not participating in the slaughter or the murder or the genocide that's happening, you're okay, because you're just consuming what's already done. This never ever sat with me in terms of working out. I was too sort of young to realize the whole production cycle and how livestock are created and all of that stuff. So now I know, there's a supply and demand for this. If I'm eating something, that's because I'm creating a supply for it, which is why someone else has to kill it for my behalf, not me directly, but the masses. So the way I figure it is, if I remove myself from the equation, at least I'm not giving a supply here. People who are looking at this, who are maybe carnivores, and they're going, hey, I buy mine grass-fed, or I go out and hunt my meat, that's completely fine. On this video, I'm just going to focus on the plant-based stuff. I'll go on to the carnivore stuff in maybe another video. I've already made one. So that's the whole animal welfare, because you genuinely have a compassion for other animals. You don't want them to suffer, just like we as humans don't like to suffer. Animals don't like to suffer as well, whether it be a fish, to a cow, to any other animal. I mean, I've seen a cow going to slaughter. I've been face to face with the cow, and you can see the sadness. You can see the tears dropping down their face. This was very young, and I remember the cow was being taken away. Because of that, irrespective of the animal, they do have maybe not feelings or sensations like we do, but there is a consciousness there. And, who are we to say, hey, we're higher in the food chain, we're going to take your life to sustain mine? So this is where the whole love and compassion has to come into play. So that's number one. If you want to go down that path, that's fine. Okay, so look into it. There's a bunch of books that I've read. I can't actually recommend any one of them because they've all been quite good. So if you actually, search animal welfare books, vegan books, or whatever, you will get a whole list of them. There's also several documentaries as well, like the Dominions is supposedly a good one. I watched about a couple of minutes of it and I couldn't stomach it. It was just too horrific. There's Earthlings as well. Again, I couldn't watch it. It's just too horrific. But there are other documentaries that don't sort of show the graphic nature of it. I mean, the reason why I stopped watching it, I was going, I'm not already meeting it. Why am I going through this heartache of watching animals suffer? So that's the reason I didn't watch it. But if you wanted some conviction on actually understanding what goes into factory farming, watch them. It'll blow your mind. Okay, so that's the animal welfare factor of it. From a health perspective, there is an overwhelming amount of scientific peer-reviewed research on the benefits of eating a plant-based diet, as opposed to eating an animal-based diet or even an omnivore diet. So I've mentioned this so many times on this channel, but this is Dr. Greger and the team who put together a book called How Not to Die. And if I was to recommend one health book, this book would be it. The reason being, Dr. Greger goes through the 15 ways that we as humans die. It's just broken down into chapters. Look at this. The first one, how not to die from heart disease, lung disease, brain disease, digestive cancers, infections, diabetes, high blood pressure, liver disease, blood cancers, kidney disease, breast cancer, suicidal depression, prostate cancer, Parkinson's disease, and iatrogenic diseases. So the last one, number 15, is basically the way people die now is, obviously number 15, is because of medical interventions that are not right for the patient, and they're given it, being treated, either they've been given the wrong medication, either they've been given an injection, or they've gone through surgery. Some sort of medical intervention has come into play, and that's the reason why people die. And obviously the way to get out of that is not play the part, not get sick, so you don't have to take part in the modern day pharmaceutical industry or medical interventions. So apologies, this is a little bit longer video than I thought it was going to be, but it is what it is. I started this journey in 2016, and the reason why I did that was I suffer from chronic migraines. Out of all the illnesses, this is the only thing that I suffer from, and it's nothing to do with diet, nothing to do with my lifestyle, because my lifestyle is fairly good. I eat well now, but even before I went down this dietary change, I ended up having it. So I'm in my early 40s now. I started getting migraines in my late teens. So, well over several decades ago. It is a hereditary thing. So a family thing where, my mom suffered from migraines growing up. And her father had it as well. So it's a family thing. Fingers crossed my kids don't get it. But that's the only chronic issue that I suffer from. That's it. I hardly get colds or flus or nothing, no other issue, which is quite remarkable. Like at the moment, my family's out with colds and flus and all of that stuff. I've got nothing, and then the kids are always jumping on me. I'm sleeping next to them sometimes. Nothing. So my immune system is quite good, is basically what I'm trying to say. So coming back to this now, full circle. So let me sort of recap what we've got now. So 2 reasons. You're either doing it for your health, which is, if you read this book, you'll know why the health benefits are there. There is countless of other studies and books as well that I can recommend, as well as the animal welfare side of things. So, and I wanted to sort of mention the difference between going on a plant-based diet and a vegan lifestyle is. So plant-based diet is you're predominantly focused on what you're eating. You're eating predominantly plants, which includes a whole lot of other stuff like, legumes, nuts, seeds, berries, greens, tubers. There's a bunch of them there, right? But in terms of being a vegan, that's more of a lifestyle thing. Like, for example, if you were to buy a pair of shoes, you would make sure that you're checking that the shoes are not made from animal products. And so you've completely eliminated all animal products from your life completely. That's the vegan mindset. Initially, when I started this journey, I was actually more or less focused on the plant-based stuff. But as I've sort of, over the years, I've gone to this side of the equation where, if I had a choice between buying this pair of shoes versus that pair of shoes, I would take the one that wasn't made from animal products. I am probably not the best vegan. So if there's vegan purists out there, they're probably not going to like me. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm not a, hardcore vegan. I try my best. That's all I'm doing here. I made a video before called The Gray Area, which is basically there's no black or white. There's a whole bunch of, 50 shades of gray that you want to go down. So it's amazing if you can go full on, but I just haven't, because that's the way I've structured my life. I try and do my best. I'm 99% there. What I mean by I'm 99% there is if I'm out at a function somewhere and there's a piece of cake and I want that piece of cake, I'll eat the piece of cake. I'm not going to ask if there's butter, milk, eggs in it. So that's what I mean, that 1%, I'm a bit more fluid on. It's just the way that I've structured my life. And, as I said, if you're a purist vegan, you're probably going to hate the fact that I do that. But that's my happy medium in terms of, to keep my sanity and to keep my going. I'll never eat meat raw, as in, separately, egg, milks, and so forth. But if they're in another thing like a cake or something, and if I want it, not necessarily, right? Because I don't have a sweet tooth, so I'm lucky in that aspect. But I hope that sort of covers my stance that I'm 99% there. But anyway, now we're getting down to the foods now. So if you are wanting a plant-based diet and you want to just sort of adopt this on a day-to-day basis, this is what I do. So for the morning meal, so easy, so easy, which is if you have yourself a giant smoothie and all you have to do is just make sure you get either a NutriBullet or a Ninja, some of those powerful blenders, and it's a big flask that you can have. Chuck all of your core ingredients in there. What are the core ingredients? And I've done this on a separate video called The Daily Dozen, Greger's Daily Dozen. So when he ended up writing these books, he basically said, okay, out of these 15 illnesses that we get, what are the best foods based on scientific research that we as humans should be eating on a day-to-day basis? So he ended up coming with 12, plus now there's 2 more. The other 2 are vitamin B12 and mushrooms. So actually, I'll touch on this as well. So you might be going, hey, you're eating just plants or you're a vegan. You might be deficient in stuff. No, that's not the case. I get my bloods done every 12 months, and guess what? They're always perfect. I donate blood as well, so I get regular health checks done as well. Again, I've got no issues. They're all perfect. The only supplement that I do take is vitamin B12. This isn't really restricted to vegans or people who are on a plant-based diet. Most people are vitamin B12 deficient. And again, most people think that vitamin B12 are derived from animals. They're not. They're basically, I'm going to butcher this explanation. So they're microbacterial things that are in soil, and then when the animals eat the soil, they have absorbed onto them, and then when we eat the animals, we get some of that vitamin B12. I hope that explanation was correct, but these days they found that that's not correct either. Even livestock are supplemented with B12 anyway, so they're not really getting it from the ground. So instead of the livestock being supplemented and we eating the livestock, why don't we just have a B12? It's so easy. It's a tiny little tablet. and that's it. You can take them daily, weekly, depending on the dosage. It's not a big deal at all. Since I've got dark skin and I live in Melbourne, occasionally, every now and then I end up taking a vitamin D3 as well, vitamin D tablet, because this is not dietary thing. It's based on sun rays and so forth. So that's vitamin vitamin D. Last one that I do take uh, is nothing to do with diet. It's because of my migraines. So I ended up taking two ginger root. So they say, and again, this whole video, it's not medical or any sort of that advice. I'm just sharing my personal uh, experiences. So they say that two ginger root tablets upon the onset of a migraine helps alleviate it. And I've noticed that to be true about 50% of the time. So if I get up in the morning and I feel a bit, I take two of them, and it's like me taking like an immigrant tablet. For those who suffer from migraine, you know what an immigrant tablet is. It's sumapartrin is the industry term for it. So it's like taking one tablet of that. So if I don't have to take any pharmaceutical stuff, hey, that's the best way to do it. So I'm more than happy to take these. So in terms of supplements, this is it. These three. So from a dietary perspective, it's just this. So it's not a real big ask, right? You're getting so much benefits, and all you're having to take is one dietary supplement. So going back to my smoothie, what do I put in the smoothie? So in terms of the daily dozen, what I try and cover is I put as much of this stuff as possible. So the base ingredient that I put into the smoothie is all greens. I'll try and put as much greens as possible. So I'm talking about spinach, kale, gotukola, any sort of greens that you can. Silver beet, I can go grow silver beet so easily in my garden, and it just grows without even, much water. It's so easy to grow. So any type of greens, vary it up. That's the secret. And you just wash it, chuck it in there. Then berries, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, put them in there as well. Then we go for the walnuts, couple of walnuts, and flax seeds, grounded flax seeds. So these two will help you with your omega-3 supplementation. So instead of taking omega-3 or supplementation like fish oils, you've got yourself covered with flax seeds and walnuts, couple of walnuts, as well as wheat germ as well. Wheat germ is really healthy for you from a longevity perspective. It's covered in this book, How Not to Age. What else do I put into my smoothie? Cruciferous vegetables. So believe it or not, like if we had broccoli the night before, I basically keep the stem, cut the stem into little pieces, boil them for a couple of minutes, and put them into my smoothie as well. So you're going to think that's disgusting. So in terms of a mindset, just change your mindset on this and go, hey, I'm just going to scull this, drink this just because it's nourishing my body. It's not going to taste bad at all, to be honest. It doesn't. I drink it, as I said, almost on a daily basis, and it's fine. But just change that mindset to thinking this is just about me getting my nutrition from the day. And that's how I sort of approach it. So that morning smoothie, I chuck in as much as I can. So as I said, if I've got broccoli there, I'll chuck in broccoli as well, but you don't have to. I know people say it's disgusting. That's fine. What else do I put in there? So other fruits that I've got lying around, I don't put banana. Okay, so there is a separate explanation on why I don't put banana. I'll tell you now. So there is a scientific study that says if you put banana into this, it'll decrease the benefits, the nutrition value of all the other ingredients by 30%. I don't know if that's true. I've sort of seen mixed research about this, but look, hey, eat your banana separately for now. Just don't put it in this particular smoothie, but all the other fruits, chuck them in there. I'm talking about apples, nectarines, plums. What else is there? I can't think of any other fruits that I usually typically put. Pears, nashi pears. And in terms of frozen ingredients, you can put dragon fruit. All of my berries are typically frozen. I try and buy them organic, even though, depending on your budget, see how you go. Mangoes, good for longevity as well. Pineapples as well, usually frozen. Lychee. So, there's endless amount of fruits and veg that you can just put in there from a nourishment perspective. And then for the liquid portion, I end up putting pomegranate juice just because it, helps with the joints and stuff when I go to the gym. And, maybe a couple of cups. There's no, it's basically up to you on what you want to put. And then I end up supplementing the rest of it with just slightly warm water, because I find that the berries are too cold. But if you put, slightly warm water, it makes it room temperature. And, you can put a bit of orange juice as well if you wanted to. Actually, sorry, I end up putting a whole orange normally, not orange juice. But if I don't have the whole oranges, I end up putting a little bit of orange juice as well, just to sort of make it a bit more sweeter. Now, I know the objection that you're going to get with this. The objection going to say is that all of this sugar is going to spike your sugar level. It doesn't. Natural sugars, complex sugars like this don't spike your sugar levels at all. The simple test is my mother was with us for a while. She's diabetic. And whenever we tried that after she had her smoothie, tested her, glucose levels, it didn't spike. So that's the morning smoothie covered. And I'm not talking about a little smoothie. I'm not talking about these little cups. I'm talking about a big full cup that you can sustain yourself. So if you have it at about, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, you're good to go until about 11. Until about midday, 11, 12, you're fine. If you need to sort of snack in between, what I recommend is a piece of fruit or a nut bar. Okay, so get yourself some nut bars and a piece of fruit. That's what you should be snacking. Anything else, any rubbish processed foods that you've got in the pantry, get rid of them. Don't have them there. Because this is why I'm saying, we're trying to sort of aim for a whole food, plant-based diet as opposed to a vegan diet. Because a vegan diet, you could be surviving on potato chips and Coke. That's technically vegan, but that's not healthy for you at all. What's the point, right? So try and aim for a whole food, plant-based diet, as in you're trying to get as much whole food as possible. So there's the popularity of all these mocked meats and, meat alternatives, which are not really meat, but they're plant-based meats. I don't condone them at all because they're highly processed products. You might as well, if that you're going to eat that, it's probably better than eating, livestock anyway. But if you're going to eat that, and look, I should let you know, I do treat myself to them every now and then just as a change. So that's me being completely transparent with you. But having them at every meal, no way. Don't do that to yourself because they're highly processed. So if you're going to do this, you might as well eat grass-fed beef that are lean and clean. It's life is all about compared to what. What are you eating that's comparatively, what should it be better? So again, as I said, I do eat that every now and then, but don't let that be your norm. So we've got the morning meal covered. In terms of dinner and lunch and dinner, you can sort of vary these meals. So for lunch, it's quite easy. So I'm from a Sri Lankan background. What's our staple, in terms of Asia? What's their staple ingredient? It's a huge big starch, which is rice. Predominantly our meals are based around rice. And you might think these carbs are bad for you. Not necessarily. Portion them out. If you have an active lifestyle, you're walking 10,000 steps, you've got movement in your body, you will burn these carbohydrates, and you need that sugar anyway in terms of fueling your day-to-day. So, plate of rice, but around it needs to be proper things. So staple ingredients. So as I said, my friend said, hey, give me some recommendations that's not going to blow out the budget. So these are all staple ingredients. Staple ingredients are rice is a staple ingredient. Hopefully it's not too expensive, but you've got others. Potatoes, not expensive. Lentils, And we have what's known as amalgam, which is basically you get a green like kale or spinach or kangkung, or any other one of the greens. You cut it up into little pieces, put it in the frying pan with a bit of tiny bit of oil. Even though if you can eliminate the oil, eliminate it because it's not good for you. Coconut shavings, salt, pepper, maybe a bit of chili flakes, and you're good to go. That's amalgam. You can have some mushrooms. Um, what else is there? There's a whole bunch of other veggies like potatoes, pumpkins, sweet potatoes, tapioca, bitter melon. Bitter melon is very, very good for you. So you can make any of these into a curry, right? Again, from a Sri Lankan background, there are a bunch of recipes out there on how you can make it. You don't have to go down that path, but basically, around your plate of rice, you've got a whole bunch of options. But there are the staples that are fairly easy to make. They're not really complicated if you look up a recipe. Very easy to make, and that's one of your meals done, either lunch or dinner. Probably lunch, right? For dinner, this is another simple meal. I guess a Western meal, if you will. So, most of the time, I end up making these for the kids, which is broccoli. So you get the broccoli, cut the stems, cut the flowers, boil them for 3 to 4 minutes. That's it. And then I take them out, a little bit of salt, pepper, and then basically you put a tiny bit of vinegar. Okay, and that's supposed to bring out the nutrition of the broccoli even more. Look that up. I've seen that in a few scientific videos. So that's a broccoli. I also boil some corn as well. We'll have the mushrooms and we'll have a garden salad, as well as maybe a piece of toast as well. If you are into tofu, you can have some tofu pieces as well. And that itself is a full meal. And all of these, especially the salad bit, have the salad as big as possible. If someone doesn't look at your salad and go, "Wow, that's a lot of salad," you're not eating you're not eating enough. Typically, what we're taught to think as salad is just this thing on the side of your main meal. No, if you could swap that around and make that your main meal, because what you want to do is try and take as many of these greens as possible, and that'll sustain you. How do I know this is working? I mean, I know this is working for myself. As I said, I don't get sick of, get cold or flus. My blood levels are always perfect, but it's not just me. We shouldn't be looking at just a sample size of one or the lifestyle choices of one person and thinking they're an optimal person. We need to look at the scientific literature, and there's a bunch of them out there. I'm talking about thousands of studies that have done where they've gone through people's different lifestyles and dietary habits and worked out, hey, are they going to get this disease, that disease? Are they healthy? And that's the type of research that we should be looking at. So circling this back around now, so that way you've got your 3 meals, right? So you've got your 3 meals now, as well as your snacks in between. The snacks, my go-to snacks are the nut bars or a piece of fruit or just nuts on the side or seeds. And yeah, that's fine. And in terms of beverages, my go-to beverages are typically water. Water is my predominant one. I have 1 coffee a day with soy milk. And no, just to dispense that myth, you don't get man boobs from drinking soy. That was from old studies, where the estrogen that are coming out of soy is not the same as estrogen as you would get from a female cow, right? Or the female hormones, I think. They've done studies on this now. As I said, the soy milk itself, this was based on research that was done on animals where the animals had issues, right? Now there's updated research on this where they've done the same things on humans. Humans react differently to the soy milk, and it's actually better for you on multiple levels. If you wanted to find out more, I'll try and find the link for you and leave it in the show notes. There's a YouTube channel called PCRM, which stands for Physicians Council for Responsible Medicine. And Chuck, who is the host there, interviews a guy who knows all about soy and soy milks and soy products, and he basically goes down to it in detail. So there's no issues there. So in terms of beverages, coming back to it, coffee, you can have decaf or a normal coffee. Believe it or not, you can supposedly have up to 8 cups of coffee a day, decaf or not decaf. So it's not the coffee that's not the caffeine that's going to benefit you, but the coffee itself, without having any negative consequences. In fact, it's considered a positive gain, but it's all about compared to what. I keep going on to that theme here. Compared to what? Is coffee good for you? Compared to what? It is, but compared to teas, probably not. Compared to hibiscus tea, no, hibiscus tea is even better. So it depends on where you want to place yourself. You can have all of them. I mean, which is what I try and do, because I don't mind a coffee every day. So I have my coffees, but actually I don't have a coffee every day. I probably have coffee maybe twice a week. What I do have every day is my friend's chai. I've got a good friend, Johnny, and Johnny has his own chai brand, which I love. And that's my go-to indulgence, on a daily basis. And as I said, in terms of beverages, I end up having my pomegranate juice with my smoothie. So I hope that tells you that in terms of vegan products or plant-based meals, staple ingredients are relatively cheap compared to a big fat steak, sausages, ribs, or a roast. Okay? Compared to this, it's relatively cheap. I'd encourage you to check your grocery prices if you end up making these changes and see if they do change. I guarantee you they will, in terms of it dropping, because there is a significant difference. So I've covered a whole bunch of topics here, and apologies, this has gone on for a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I wanted to sort of go back and reiterate the conviction part. So especially if you're a man, as I said, this applies to women as well, but I feel like it's a bit more or less. We as a society don't associate being vegan or being on a plant-based diet negatively for women. Okay, but for men, it's considered less masculine. As I said, if you look at the scientific literature, it's not the case. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to have to not care about what other people think. You're going to have to go, I don't care. So I made a video on this before called What's Your Superpower? Learning what is good for you. And you have that true conviction inside yourself going, hey, I've looked at the stats. I'm not going to play these games. I'm not going to go down this path. You really do get tested, especially in when you're in a social environment and you've got peers and friends and colleagues pressuring you to do something that is not in your best interest. That's where you're tested. That's where you're going to go, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that anymore. This is what I'm doing. And because, you might give a reason, you might not have to. But it really is hard. And I was telling a friend the other day, especially if you wanted to try this and you're a young man, boy, in your late teens, you really get tested, because men, when they're younger, they're less tolerant, they bully, they, mock. So if you as a human being don't have that true conviction of why you're doing this or why you want to go down that path, again, either the animal welfare or the health part are the two decisions that you have to make for yourself. Thankfully, I've ended up adopting both of these because they're both really true, mean to me, something to me by now. It's fairly easy for me to go, hey, that's not me. And as I said, my close friends are completely okay with who I am, which is, I guess, the reason why they are close to me. And they let me be me, and I'll let them be them. I don't try and convince them to adopt what they want. Let them be them, I'll be me. That's all I ask of people. And as I said, thankfully, my friends have been loving and caring and kind people and allowed me to be me. Initially, obviously, they had questions, concerns, and, I tried to help and address some of their concerns. But I'll finish up the video here. I hope you got something out of it. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you in the next video. All the best. Bye.